valuing myself and changing, my sense of purpose and my identity. I have a lot to offer. Just because I don't have, a traditionally respectable career as a doctor or a lawyer or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company doesn't mean I'm any less valuable or any less skilled or
Today I have a special guest. His name is Dean. I'm friends with him through Zumba. We're both Zumba instructors. And his story, I think it will inspire a lot of people. When he reached out to me, he said his life is completely different than what he had planned. And I think a lot of people go through that. He learned about self-worth and a sense of purpose. So Dean, why do you think your story will inspire a lot of people nowadays, or what you're going through, or what you went through?
I think a lot of people experience hardship in their lives, setbacks, temporary periods of adversity. They may feel like they don't know, what's on the other end for them or how to get through a tough time. So I think we could all relate to that. Talking a little bit more about myself and what I've gone through might be able to inspire somebody or give somebody a different way of looking at their days, their lives, just a different perspective.
Absolutely. What is your story?
I'll start with my childhood. I was raised to do really well in school. That relates a lot to the moral of this story. I was very focused on being a good student and being a good person and doing everything right, whether that was sports, whether that was school, whether that was, friendships, anything like that. I really focused on doing that as well as possible. I was a rule follower, was listening to my parents, valuing, respecting my parents, which, yes, it's a really great thing to do. And any kids out there listening, I hope that you respect and listen to your parents. I was very competitive with myself in all the things that I did. As I was growing up, childhood, teenage years in high school, then when I went into college. I guess that kind of drive allowed me to succeed in many ways. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I was fourth in my class in high school. I did really well. Everything seemed to be working out, quote unquote. At that time, my personal values were more about my success in school and how others perceived me based off of, what I was doing, what I was achieving. That mattered a lot to me. The acceptance of others, the validation of others on what I was doing as, being something that was, valued and respected was very big to me at the time. And then I went to college, shout out Rutgers in New Jersey. That was my alma mater. I went there. That was the first time I experienced the biggest hardship of my life at that point. I went to Rutgers to study to become a doctor. I had that kind of set in my mind as a teenager that I would want to pursue that for many reasons. I think one, because of the challenge of it, the prestige of it appealed to me, the way that, doctors are perceived in society, the way they're respected, and also financially. And when I thought about the quote unquote, what we're taught to strive for with our careers is to find a job that, provides financial security. Doctors make a lot of money. I grew up in a middle class family. We struggled sometimes. My parents didn't have much, but they gave my brother and I everything that they had, and I really appreciate and value them. And I think that my dad really tried to instill in me the belief that I could be anything I wanted to be, but that anything I wanted to be was really limited to doctor or lawyer. That was kind of the mentality that I had. Okay, this is what I'm going to pursue in my studies. Everything I do is going to be so that I can set myself up to achieve this career, so that I can experience all these things on the back end.
A lot of people don't talk about it, but they have this mindset. If I have to be a doctor or a lawyer, that's the only limitation I have due to what my parents want me to be. Being
a kid that listened to his parents and respected and also believed that he could achieve those things based off of how I was performing in school and the intelligence that, I don't want to say I had, because I still think in that way, but I was performing in the way that, I could achieve those things. Then I got into college and I was doing my pre-med courses and science courses, very challenging, but again, was still doing well despite, having to, learn how to study differently and a lot and sacrifice a lot of my time just studying when my friends were having fun or things like that. But then the crossroads for me came my junior year of college. I was studying for the MCAT, which is a medical school exam, kind of like the SAT for high school. I was in a very rigorous program, a prep program. That coupled with my coursework, to make a long story short, the practice test that I took, I wasn't doing well, and I wasn't used to that. No matter what I did, no matter what I tried to do better, I just wasn't. For the first time, I felt like everything that I ever worked towards was in jeopardy because I wasn't able to overcome this mountain. Like this test, just for me, it wasn't clicking. No matter what I learned previously, no matter how I tried to study, and no matter how many practice tests and different things I tried, it was just overwhelming, to say the least, and started experiencing anxiety and depression, a lot of self-doubt, feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness. My world was shaken at that time when I came to this point where everything I ever studied for was kind of in the balance.
Was this the first time you experienced anxiety and depression?
So I had experienced anxiety before in the past. It's something that I feel like I've noticed. It's in my family to a degree. I've seen that those behaviors exhibited from other family members. And growing up, I felt that in certain situations or about certain things that I perceived to be fearful. Or I'm relatively introverted now. Like I'm more of a thinker than I am an expresser. I mean, I do it many times and it feels natural, but I'm very in my head about a lot of things. I'm more of a processor of information. So when I had to, when I was a kid, speak in front of people, that gave me anxiety. When I had to, I don't know, it's funny, I'm a Zumba instructor now, but I was very afraid of dancing in public when I was a kid. Yeah.
And look at you now, dancing in front of everyone and an instructor, which is amazing.
Life is funny in the ways that it works and, what's to come. But at that time, just dancing with somebody or being seen in public dancing or talk, all these little things gave me anxiety. Right. I experienced some performance anxiety in sports, and this isn't something I've shared publicly before. This is something that I've shared with a core group of people where, again, I think it stems from trying too hard to achieve success. At that time with sports, I was comparing myself to who I was around or people on other teams, and I wanted to do more. My coaches wanted me to do this, and I'm like, okay, well, this is what I can naturally do. And now I'm trying to figure out how to be even better. And then I started to nitpick all the things about myself to try and, make it better. And it just made it worse.
We are who we are and we know our capability. And that's who we are. We have to, as humans, to just stop comparing ourselves to other people and pushing ourselves to that limit. In your case, you're getting anxiety. So you're your health as well.
For sports specifically, I did well, but had I had the tools to regulate better in certain instances or, rationalize how, what I was doing was good enough as it was. And although I might not be the best, what my best is good enough for what I'm doing. I could have achieved a little bit more, transparently speaking. I guess we can tie that back to where I left off my test preparation in college, where the same thing came back. Those other things that I mentioned, they had a start and end period. Once I got past it, I didn't have to go back and play sports after I left high school. I was done. If I wanted to avoid it the rest of my life, I could do that. Learning is an ongoing process. And, there was a means to leading me towards something else that I believed I wanted to achieve. And I couldn't avoid that. So I was just stuck in this rut trying to improve something that there was nothing wrong with me as there was, but I started to see myself as a test score in order to gain admission to medical school, which is what I really valued at the time. Not being able to test well for that specific test really affected my mental health. I struggled a lot for a few months, actually for a few years after that, kind of just trying to find myself after something that I had worked up towards didn't work out for me. Initially, I coped terribly. I just tried to avoid as much as I could practicing, studying for the test. I didn't want anything to do with it. I was still in the program for test prep, but I didn't do anything extra. I showed up and I did the minimum requirement. I just wanted nothing to do with it. And, I became a recluse for a few weeks of just like, didn't leave my dorm room very much at all. And
It was the dark years.
poor coping mechanisms to try and, feel some sort of temporary happiness or satisfaction to cope with, what I was experiencing and not really knowing how to get over it. But then soon after that, I mean, I'm very close to my parents now, and I opened up to them about, what I was feeling, and they didn't get it. And I don't think to this day, if you ask them, they still would. Happenings with one's mental health is very personal, and it's very hard to define, especially if you've never experienced it for yourself, to know exactly what someone's feeling. So I understood that they didn't understand, and they weren't used to their son struggling because he's always done so well. So what's happening all of a sudden? For the first time in my life, I asked for help.
That's such a big step because people don't ask for help. So the fact that you did ask for help is great.
And I think it might have been the way I was raised, or, the way my surroundings were, where you just, your stuff is your stuff. You figure out how to handle it, and you show up and you do whatever you need to do, and whatever's happening to you, that's your problem. You figure it out. But I couldn't, it's not something I could sleep away. It's not something I could, avoid. So I talk therapy. My school had on-site mental health therapists, licensed professional social workers, free for students. So I went and I started a journey of learning different things about mental health and how to perceive things differently. To this day, I still do therapy.
And that's amazing because people are ashamed or think it's like a taboo that you're going to therapy or you're crazy, but it's not. I think everyone needs therapy, and it helps you so much in so many ways that you can't help yourself, or your friends can't help you, or your family can't help you.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I could have another episode just on the benefits of therapy. I could speak for an hour about it.
I don't go to therapy, but it's also something that I've been working on. But absolutely, I think everyone should go to therapy, and don't be ashamed of it. It's something not to be ashamed of.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anybody listening and they've contemplated doing it, or they felt some sort of stigma, or that people think that they're crazy for going, just work on letting that go and go for it. Remember, we have to live with the experience of ourselves every day, and nobody else is living that for us. So check in with yourself about how you're feeling, and if you feel like you can use a boost in your life, there's nothing wrong with reaching out for help in any facet. My story, my journey, I started doing therapy. Over years, I learned different tools and techniques, different ways to perceive different situations, how to process emotions, how to analyze thoughts, things like that, to help me respond rather than react to certain things that happened to me. At the time, my anxiety was very severe. Like, I felt it physiologically very extremely. It was really hard to just do normal things. But over time, I learned ways to regulate that. But I guess like one of the quick takeaways from me doing that was just honing into why my success on this test was so important to me, changing the way that I perceived my self-worth and my personal values. And I think for me, therapy was the first time I started to think differently about myself and started to value myself, things outside of my educational success or what I'm labeled as or what other people want for me or see me as. Because at that time, I was done with wanting to be a doctor. I was turned off. I was like, this is how much it takes to do this test, and it's only going to get even more extreme. And my college roommate just became a doctor last year, and I'm 10 years removed from undergraduate study. So, it's a long process, a long devoted process of a lot of sacrifices. And I think taking a step back on it now and thinking more about, my strengths and my passions, perhaps, it was a great thing. Maybe it was in a way meant to be that I experienced this so intensely, so painfully at times, but it allowed me to really open up some wounds and get into the heart of who I am outside of, a job or, something that's very superficial.
I think everything happens for a reason. And if it wasn't meant to be for you, it's not for you. But now in your career, in your life, are you happier? Do you have that self-worth and that sense of purpose?
I do. As Pinky mentioned, I'm a Zumba instructor, just like she is. That's one of the primary things I do as my career. It makes up a good part of my week, put a lot of time into it, and I love it. I'm also a personal trainer, and I also DJ. So those are a few things that I do. And those are all things that I'm passionate about. I wake up and I have like this gratitude process every day. I wake up and I'm thankful for just being here. on earth. I've learned to really value very small things so that I could experience some small wins every day, happiness as much as possible. That's another conversation too, cultivating gratitude and happiness. But I learned that over a lot of time, kind of out of necessity of just valuing myself and changing, my sense of purpose and my identity. I have a lot to offer just because I don't have, a traditionally respectable career as a doctor or a lawyer or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company doesn't mean I'm any less valuable or any less skilled or contribute less to society. I'm happy just affecting the network that I'm around of, if I can influence one person, do what I enjoy and have it benefit somebody, that to me, that's significant. And I wake up every day feeling like what I do matters, who I am matters. I matter on this earth. I can get through anything.
Exactly. And I think everyone should feel their self-worth and the sense of purpose, because everyone does have a purpose on this earth. Like you said, you can have the smallest job or be in corporate and own this multi-billion-dollar business, but you still have a purpose. As a Zumba instructor, I think, inspire so many people on an everyday basis, because we get there and just looking at our participants' smiles, you don't know what they're going through, but whatever they're going through, that's their hour, and they're smiling and they're dancing. And that right there is a huge purpose. And I love how you were able to overcome that, because I don't think a lot of people do, because we live in this society that it's about pressure and where you are at what age and what job, and people
That's
are
right.
constantly judging you as to how come you're not doing this. And coming from a background that my family was also very similar to yours, there's always that kind of pressure, like how come you're not making this much, or how come you're not doing this career, versus like, no, I'm doing something that I love and waking up with gratitude.
Absolutely.
Right?
And breaking free of what society has deemed a good course of life, make this much by this age, be married by this age, have kids by this age, own a house, what have you. Just learning to let go of that and live your life and on your terms, and just make sure that what's inside is taken care of before you focus on all the other things that other people think are going well with you. If everything's not settled on the inside, nothing else matters. Everything I'm saying right now, and the reason why I wanted to be on your podcast, is just to have people become aware, if they're not already, with themselves and the way they perceive life in general, the way they perceive their life. Perception can change your life in an instant if you see things differently. I see life in a totally different way than I did before I started studying for that exam in the years prior to that. I encounter similar situations and I handle them gracefully, because I know what I need to do to regulate my thoughts and emotions in the time, show myself a lot of love and compassion throughout those processes. Yeah, I want people to live their truest life and explore their passions and do something with it, despite what others may want for you or what you think you should be doing. It's okay to struggle. I want my episode, at least, and I know you're going to continue to do great things and inspire people. I want this to inspire people to be open with loved ones, with themselves, be everything that they can be, and strive for greatness. We're all capable of achieving something really positive and meaningful, and we don't have to be limited by what society deems that we should be doing or our own self-limiting beliefs. And, what I experienced helped me circumvent all of those things, those self-limiting beliefs about, what I feel like I should aspire for, what I'm only meant to earn, what I'm only meant to do. My perception of myself is limitless. I'm doing everything I can for myself, and whatever comes of it, but I'm doing it because I enjoy it. Whatever is to come will come.
Exactly. And do what makes you happy. We're on this earth and we get one chance. So why not, right? And I think your story will inspire many people, especially the ones that are going through the studying and trying to see what they want to do in college and in their career. So the fact that you change your perception in one moment because of a test is very great, because wow, you're like, okay, this is not for me. And I think a lot of people need that inspiration, need that story of like, it's okay. Like, if it's not for you, you can find something else. Follow your dream, follow your passion. Thank you so much for your story.
Just one quick thing. I heard it on another podcast I was listening to today. When it comes to change, it's 4 words: accept, adjust, move forward. It resonated with me because some of the things I've experienced, they're changes. Change can be scary. And for me at that time, my change was very scary for me. And had I had that, graceful peaceful mindset of adjust, accept, and move forward, it could have been easier for me at the time. But now something like that is ingrained in me. Whenever a change is happening to anybody who's listening to this, be open to accepting it and adjusting it and moving forward, because life does go on and there is always something more out there for us, even if we think in the moment a lost job, a lost loved one be shattering, and in the moment it could feel that way, but unconditionally accept so that you remain centered and then just keep your head up and keep moving forward.
That's true, 100%. If you're ever in the New Jersey area, check out Dean's Zumba classes, or if you need a DJ. And you personal train where?
I have my own business, my own personal training business. You can find more information, deanseda.com, deanseda.com. Or if you want to talk about this episode and you want to, get more into talking about lifestyle and, mental habits, I'd be happy to do that. It's a topic I'm really passionate about just by personal experience, and happy to help whoever I can.
Thank you so much, Dean. And now maybe I'll have you back for the therapy episode.
My pleasure.
More episodes.